Q&A, scene 1, take 1. Thank you for joining me for this viewer question and answer video. This isn't live, but if you're watching the video as a premiere, you can ask questions and make comments in the chat window. I'll try and reply to comments as they come in. You can still see the chat comments if you're watching the video later. If you'd like to support the work that goes into making my videos, you can contribute via the super chat or super thanks, or at ko-fi.com/upstaged by a dog. There is a link in the video description. Thank you. I'm going to try and keep my answers concise, as I don't want to bore everybody with my voice. And Ty and David Kelsey have asked something similar. How did you get started with the channel? I'd be interested in learning more about the man behind them and your obvious love of classic TV and how you came to be making them. I've always been interested in television and theatre, both viewing and performing, and even backstage. Amateur acting, I've directed and built sets and all sorts of things like that in amateur, and a semi-professional lighting technician as well. I also used to review theatre productions for local papers. I bought a video camera. It was in about 1988. It was a videotape recorder camera with 8mm videotape in it. It's large, it's quite heavy, and at the time they had just brought out the JVC tiny video recorder things, so mine was a bit unwieldy looking, but actually it looked professional compared to the dinky ones. Nowadays you can get the same in a little package like this, and that's digital minicam. I've got several of these, and Pete, who's my cameraman when I'm on location, as well as his Sony DSLRs, he's also got several of these as well. These are handy for odd little jobs like this, and I can show you the main camera I currently use. If this will focus, this is a Canon XA50, and it's got the radio mic receiver stuck on the top of it. The radio mics I use are about £300 a set, and I'm just checking on the receiver that the battery level hasn't gone down in the transmitter, because it eats batteries. I put my first video on the channel in 2021, and that was the video I made in 1988 of my the area where I was born. It was just an experiment. It was putting some pictures to music, basically. In 2021, I also started researching the summer wine project. I thought I was just going to make one video about Last of the Summer Wine. That blossomed into, up to date now, 33 videos, most of them with quite a bit of location filming. The reason for making the videos was that in 2023, January that year, was the 50th anniversary of the programme first being piloted, and then a series coming out later that year. And then I had a bit of a one-year hiatus when I moved house and various things, and this year, 2025, I've done a weekly video since about February, which is quite an effort. It's nearly a full-time job. Right, time for another question. And David Dwyer says, always enjoy your content, but somebody's going to have to ask about the name of the channel. Which dog is this then? Did I miss something? So I needed a distinctive name for the channel, and with a bit of humour. There is a phrase widely attributed to the Hollywood actor and comedian W.C. Fields: never work with animals and children. The sentiment being that the animals and children can be highly unpredictable and are likely to inadvertently steal the scene from the actors. It's happened. Go on. The channel had the name before it happened, but especially whilst filming outside and when we were making the summer wine videos, we were interrupted by dogs on a few occasions. The first one, I could see the dog, obviously he's right in front of me, I'm talking to him, but on the second occasion, after the one passed between myself and Pete behind the camera, I didn't know what was going on behind me, and the dog had to stop and do a few things before they carried on their walk. So that's where the channel got its name from. let's have another question. Right, so Eve Carty wants to know whatever happened with the BBC restricting use of their archives at the Written Archive Centre. So, what is the Written Archive Centre? There's an archive for videotapes and recordings. There's another archive just for documents. It's called the BBC's Written Archive Centre. They decided that they would temporarily suspend access because they were doing an audit, and that's entirely reasonable. You can't have people borrowing stuff and coming and looking at random documents while they're trying to audit what they actually owe. That was due to be for about a year. They're now making that policy permanent. In days gone by, anybody, you included, could write to the archive or email them and ask them about a programme, and if that information was in the archive they could look at it and they could give you some information. They've now decided that the only people who can access the archive will be professional writers, people who've been commissioned to write a book or who are making a television programme about television or something to do with the BBC, and similar types of enterprises. The general public and thousands of non-professional creators like myself, whether they're writing blogs or making videos, no longer have access. This is going to mean that the resource I've relied on for a lot of my research has now gone. If you think that's important and you'd like to contact them to let them know how important you think it would be for them to change their policy, I'd appreciate if you contact them. Okay, another question. Right, I've been asked by a lot of people on a number of occasions in the video comments, why don't you put clips in videos? Firstly, I'm not a clip show. You can see many of the shows legitimately on TV and streaming services or other places if you want to. Including clips would make the videos longer, wouldn't necessarily make them any more informative. The hard truth is, I need to earn money from the videos in order to continue making them, which means YouTube checks the videos for copyrighted content and notifies the rights holder. People tell me that you can use clips because of fair use. Fair use is an American legal concept. In the UK there is fair dealing, which is less flexible than the American fair use. Fair use or fair dealing only applies where a short clip is used for criticism or review. The clip must be the subject of the critique, not just used as a general illustration. If the programme maker objects, fair dealing can only be decided by a court. I've already one video that I received no income from because the BBC decided I wasn't entitled to use their content. The BBC get the small amount of money the video makes. The BBC can still choose to make a copyright claim in the future. I can't afford to defend it in court, and deleting the video won't make any difference. YouTube has a 3-strike policy. The third copyright claim means the channel is terminated. The BBC don't even license programme content to YouTubers. If they did, it would cost a minimum of £3,000 for up to 1 minute, plus £50 per additional second. I don't make that much money on here. Right, another question. Alaric asks about me diversifying and perhaps covering Taggart and something like PD James. I sort of remember the original Taggart. I haven't seen the PD James series. I would like to do Vera, in particular because of the locations they've used, but that would be a location video and that's an expensive job to do. The availability of research information is one of the key things. There is an awful lot more information available about comedy shows than there are about serious dramas of that type. Would, as somebody has suggested in the past, like to cover some sketch comedy. I have started writing some scripts about that, so no doubt in the future we'll see some other types of TV content, which was kind of always the plan, although there wasn't much of a plan. Okay, what have we got here? Right, oh, Gareth is asking me a slightly complicated question. So he thinks I Love Lucy might have been the first American sitcom on television, on ITV, but BBC was started before. So were any American sitcoms broadcast prior to ITV commencing operation? Right, the first US sitcom was Mary Kay and Johnny, a real husband and wife who started out there on TV as a shopping channel in 1947. Their sitcom wasn't shown in the UK. Next came I Love Lucy in the US in 1951. But in the early years of television, the UK was relatively slow to import American sitcoms, although US broadcasters were actively stealing British programme ideas. The first American sitcom on UK television was Amos and Andy, which first appeared on the BBC between April 1954 and September 1957. Amos and Andy had been on BBC Radio in the 1930s. The US sitcom My Hero, starring Bob Cummings, and then I Love Lucy appeared on ITV during its first week in 1955. Right, another question. Right, okay. Are you a fan of Only Fools and Horses? Would you consider doing a video or two of what is perceived as Britain's greatest ever sitcom? Might not be. Discussing, I've been in, had a couple of emails from Thomas discussing why you're not a fan of the ever popular Only Fools and Horses. So there are a lot of shows I'm not a fan of, but that doesn't mean to say I don't enjoy them. I don't hate the show, Only Fools and Horses. It is one of the best British sitcoms. I do intend to do a video or so. I don't currently have a hook for it. Not every comedy show is considered funny by everyone, and there are some that have had a broad appeal, which is an emotional response. I'm more pragmatic, and if I give an opinion, it's based on considering careful observations. There are funny lines and scenarios, and even funny episodes of Only Fools and Horses, but it's evolved over time. This means the writers have to find yet more scenarios for the characters. They start to get more outlandish or less unique. This is not unusual in sitcoms that have long runs. Right, next. Did I ever meet or interview Brian Wilde from Summer Wine? So I only started researching the Summer Wine videos in 2021. Brian died in 2008. Most actors can only be contacted via their agent or a publicist, and their details are not always public, and they would probably ask for a fee. Actors that have social media often have direct messaging turned off or just don't reply. I have been lucky recently. I've managed to speak to some writers and producers for a series that is coming up probably about February, March time in 2026. Right, next question. What's been my favourite filming location, and a filming location I haven't been to but would really like to? So practically any location filming I've done so far has been for the Summer Wine series, and it's going to be at a bit of an anticlimax to give you an answer. The Crossroads at Intake Lane, Holmfirth, is a quiet area used very often in the shows, has got a variety of views and a variety of settings in one spot. It was used extensively in the show, and if I ever needed to do an extra shot and I hadn't really got a location for it, Intake Road could be on my way home from a weekend filming, and that's often where I spend the last couple of hours doing some shots there and tidying up a few shots that I couldn't do elsewhere. Another place is Packhorse Bridge, which is the rather narrow, rickety is the wrong word because it's made of stone, but treacherously uneven underfoot bridge over a stream where it joins into another stream. Lovely location, very difficult to, I say difficult to get to, not very far from a road, but you've got to walk along a stone paved towpath which has chunks missing out of it and is very lumpy, and you stand a good chance of falling in. Another favourite location was the Three Arch Bridge at Meal Hill House. I've plans but no resources for any more location filming. Travelling is expensive, petrol and overnight accommodation is expensive, and that's all out of the question at the moment. Right, another question, I think. Right, Paul says, why is it some sitcoms age better than others? The plots of some shows have an appeal that doesn't rely on them being in part of a certain era, while visual elements like decoration and clothing fashions have changed. They're not outstanding features, and the people don't necessarily have the latest homes and fashion anyway. The stories are generally about people and their relationships. There will always be conflict in comedy, and these shows use that rather than external influences like the latest technology. If you look at ever decreasing circles, there will always be communities, a street, a village or Martin's Close, that have a close association, and there's always been one or two people at the forefront of that organisation. That familiarity has a big part to play in people's continued enjoyment. Many people have said in video comments that they remember a show from many years ago, and it reminds them of watching it with family. It has a comforting effect, and viewing the show again evokes warm memories, even if some of those are rose tinted. Okay. Right, Thomas is concerned about comedy acting being a burden for its performers. All right, there is something rather unkindly referred to as sad clown paradox. It seems that comic performers' anxieties and problems are made more severe as they often have a vulnerable personality. They might thrive on the attention of the audience, but after a show they might have difficulty relaxing or sleeping, so they have a drink, smoke to wind down. Their home life often suffers due to their unhealthy and stressful demands of being a performer. It's not the work as such that affects them, but the lifestyles associated with the industry. They do seem to have a higher mortality rate than, and there is research to confirm this. Sadly, those working as musicians, actors and entertainers have been found to be high risk groups for suicide. Heart attacks and cardiovascular disease are among the performers' major causes of death, and are often linked to intense stress, irregular lifestyle and high rates of drinking and smoking. Performers and creative people tend to die of cancer at higher rates than other types of celebrity. Specifically relating to Barry Evans, his cause of death when he was 53, despite a lot of speculation, was ruled as natural causes. I've put some links, if I've remembered, to the research in the description below. Right, next. Thomas is also concerned about the straight man in comedy, singling out Ernie Wise. He says, surely sitcoms need their straight characters as well. Comedy is based on subverting expectations. It can be done in a one-line joke where the first part sets up an understood convention and the second part is the punchline that subverts your assumptions about the scenario. In a double act, the straight man is doing the equivalent of the first part of a one-line joke by providing a setup that isn't usually funny by itself. Expanding on this, sitcoms have at least one character who represents normality and order, and the comedy comes from the other characters saying or doing things that don't match the audience's expectations. So you need a straight man in a double act or ensemble comedy. I was thinking about this and I looked at the young ones recently and I thought, they're all jokers, but actually they're not. Mike is the sensible one. He's the straight man. Right. Let's see. Who is my favourite comedy actor? Thank you, Ty. I tend to like shows rather than watch something because a particular actor is in it. For versatility, I can't say the word versatility, it has to be Ronnie Barker. He started in character roles in repertory theatre and was a constant presence on TV from 1956, starting in supporting parts, soon becoming a well-known name in the 1960s. His many characters in The Two Ronnies with Ronnie Corbett showed off his acting and voice work. He was strikingly different in Porridge as Norman Stanley Fletcher and Open All Hours as Albert Arkwright. Plus, of course, he also wrote some of the Ronnie sketches under the name of Gerald Wiley, including one of the best ever sketches, Four Candles. Next, so what have been my favourites comedies? Okay, you're going to make me pick my favourite child now. Okay, this is going to just be a brief list. I Deal with Johnny Vegas, Father Ted, Spaced, Car Share, Peter Kay, Bottom, Gimme Gimme Gimme, IT Crowd, Fawlty Towers, absolutely fabulous, Red Dwarf, Open All Hours, Not Still Open All Hours, Hello Hello, Black Books, Last of Summer Wine, First of Summer Wine. I could probably go on. Let's see, what else am I being asked? Oh right, Jeffrey wants to know what's been my favourite to talk about, and a couple of deep dive facts that you've learned about a show that really surprised you. So as for the favourite show to talk about, I'm going to have to say Last of the Summer Wine, mainly because I spent 2 years on the video project. Having been in the locations and talked about the episodes, the characters and the actors, it became so that I felt I knew them. There are 2 shots in my videos covering Bill Owen's passing. One shot opposite the Sea Compo hill and the other outside the funeral directors. They were very difficult to do. It felt like I'd suffered a personal loss, and these are people I didn't even know. A couple of deep dive facts. I knew that in Fawlty Towers, Polly was originally written as a philosophy student, and I thought that was what was in the script in the version that was on TV. However, after the pilot was recorded, John Cleese and Connie Booth thought that an art student would work better, so a few lines were rewritten. These lines were in the dining room, which was the only time her course cropped up, in a scene with a character called Danny Brown. So when the hotel inspector was being recorded, these new lines were filmed, which meant getting actor Robin Ellis back. However, by this time his hair was a bit longer and different. They'd given him a different shirt to wear, and so between the different camera angles you see his shirt and hair change from one to the other. In keeping up appearances, Onslow is often watching television, but instead of paying to use clips of films, Harold Snowd, the director, shot about 5 fake film extracts whilst out on location. Some were at the rear of the hotel they used in the episode when Richard goes golfing with the Major, and some were filmed in a scrapyard near another location. The camera crew were the characters, and the music was from low-cost library tracks. Right, where are we? Right, current sitcoms. Are there any current sitcoms you enjoy? The only half decent one for me, who's this, Paul, is called Here We Go on BBC One. So Paul might like to know that Here We Go has a special in December, and season 4 has been commissioned for 2026. My problem with watching current programmes is the dissipation, the spread and separation of apps, etc. It makes it very difficult to find what you want to watch if you know which channel it's on or which app you need to use. Recently I've been watching Mr. Big Stuff, Brassic, Piglets, sort of. The concept's not so good. They shove Mark Heath in it for a name. Mammoth is, there's a new season on BBC 2 soon. Changing Ends, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, and The Cleaner, non-comedy stuff I've been watching, although they have comedy elements in them. Ludwig, I've been watching Traitors. The first UK Celebrity Traitors was this year, and that's quite interesting. Among my favourite frequent rewatches are Dexter, the prequel and both sequels, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and I watched Severance, and I want my money back. No, I want my time back. It's one of those things, not quite like a car crash, but I couldn't take my eyes off it. I wanted to know what was going to happen, and it's not spoiling anything to say that you never know what happened in the end. Time for another question before I get into trouble with that one. So, which sitcoms have I found where the first season is notably strong? And what is whether it's a case of a good premise being crafted through the years or the writing? So this is a phenomenon that definitely happens in British sitcoms, just as it does in TV in general. Often the magic of a first season comes from fresh, tightly written premise and a great cast, but keeping the momentum going can be a challenge. The first series, The In-Betweeners in 2008, is often praised for capturing the awkwardness of being a teenager with authentic scripts. The later seasons are popular, but the characters became more exaggerated and the plots relied more on coarse humour. The ideas were running out, I think. Gavin and Stacey's first series, the first season has a wonderful, gentle charm as it focuses on this budding long-distance romance between the titular characters and their families. Later series have to rely more on the supporting characters like Nessa's increasingly lewd experiences, and it changed the feel of the show a bit, although by the finale in 2024, I think they'd recaptured the spirit. Phone Shop in 2009, the first season of the Channel 4 show, had snappy, energetic dialogue and a strong ensemble cast. Felt like the show's initial momentum and style was lost. Perhaps the writers had lost their way or run out of ideas. It's also worth noting that in British TV a season is only 6 or 8 episodes, whereas in America it can be 23. When a series is a hit, there's a massive pressure to quickly produce another one, as Paul pointed out in his question, and that doesn't always allow the writers enough time to develop equally strong material. Okay, who would you say are your favourite sitcom writers? Okay, you're making me pick my children again. I think Matthew's really asking if there are writers whose work I would watch knowing it will be well written. I've got a tendency to avoid more recent self-written sitcoms where the main character is the actor who's written it as well. Despite the tortuous process to actually get a series on TV, some of these scripts or productions do not come up to scratch. Prolific writers like Ray Galton and Alan Simpson for Hancock's Half Hour and Steptoe and Son have to be a contender. Roy Clark, based on his volume of output, Summer Wine, Rosie, Open All Hours, Still Open All Hours, and other serious and other comedy productions as well. Dick Clement and Ian LaFrennay for Auf Wiedersehen, Pet, Porridge, Likely Lads, Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads. Some people can produce regularly good quality output. I'm not going to go through them, but you will see in the comments to some of my videos there are references to writers and sitcoms that I have not even covered yet that get a lot of negative comments. Right. What are 5 quintessentially British shows, Jeff wants to know, either in theme or location you think everyone should see. So Hancock's Half Hour and Hancock, the first British sitcom that still has some episodes preserved in the archives, would be my first choice. The backstory of the show and Hancock himself reads like a Greek tragedy. Hancock didn't want to be seen as a double act with Sid James, so the producers had to tell James he was out of a job before the final series. Following a car accident, Hancock found he couldn't learn the script, so relied on teleprompters. He decided to break with Galton and Simpson as his writers, which resulted in them creating Steptoe and Son. Whilst he was married, he had numerous affairs and became an alcoholic and eventually taking an overdose of prescription medication. It was not a happy end, but the show was important. Fawlty Towers, written by John Cleese and his wife Connie Booth, with Basil, the owner of a hotel, who hates his guests, operating in an environment of chaos created by himself, in constant danger. He's going to have an aneurysm, generally accepted as one of, if not the best ever British sitcom. Bottom, part of the alternative comedy scene, just as anarchic as The Young Ones, but with a style closer to accepted norms of sitcoms, with underdog characters and slapstick. Yes, Last of the Wine's cropping up again. The longest running sitcom in the world has to come up again, and the longest running comedy show in Britain, 31 seasons over 37 years. Particularly of note are the pilot season 1 and 2, which are gritty and grounded in reality, and the second, Foggy Period. It featured Yorkshire scenery and was made with a filmic style thanks to Alan J.W. Bell's direction. It gave a voice to an older generation to show you're not washed up at 50. Most of the stars had long backgrounds in musical, theatre and radio, learning their craft before transitioning to television. And The Office, not the first TV mockumentary, but The Office is credited as popularising the sitcom version of the style, especially for workplace comedy. Originally shown on BBC Two with low ratings, it became an international phenomenon. I can't say that word either. Like Fawlty Towers, it ended after 2 short seasons. Leaving people wanting more is probably sometimes the best idea. Right. Christopher wants to know, which sitcoms do you feel ended before they should have, and which ones went on far too long? Ooh, cruel Christopher. Half of all British sitcoms only had 1 or 2 series of 6 or 8 episodes each. But not all of those were strong enough to go on for more seasons. You have to respect the writer's wishes, but Fawlty Towers could have probably managed another couple of seasons. Don't hug me, I'm scared. that had more to go, but I think it's a costly and difficult programme to make. Peter Kay's Car Share had more miles in it, I would say. What should have ended, Only Fools and Horses, was supposed to end in 1986 when David Jason said he was going to leave. Season 7 was supposed to be the final season, but possibly by public demand there were specials in 1992, 93, 96, 2001, 2002, 2003. Bred, after the Joey and Aveline characters changed, they could easily have been written out. It was time to end it then, probably. Simon Hughes says, has doing this channel caused you to go off a sitcom you used to like, or given you new appreciation one you didn't like before? Okay, Simon, so I've not gone off any of the shows that I've looked at. The negative connotations of Operation U-Tree, if you're not in the UK, an explanation of that might be on the screen. Still writing a new script. That script is still half written. I haven't got around to finishing it. I've a new appreciation for older shows that I've come across new information about, not necessarily useful for my video, but fills in the background of some of the performers, and many of them who came from variety theatre and progressed to film and then on to television. Their experience means they've continued to have careers long into their old age. Rather than having an appreciation for new shows, I've gained an appreciation for the actors and talent and the importance of their backgrounds. Was there a sitcom you researched where the public response surprised you? Right. Thank you, Laura. So I wasn't prepared for the strength of the mixed reactions to shows like Mrs. Brown's Boys and Bred. I knew Mrs. Brown divided opinion. The viewer scores and their reviews are probably more divergent than any I've seen. The one that really did surprise me was the reaction to Carla Lane. I'd assumed, because I'd not seen any of her shows for a very long time, if the audience reaction to her shows is so bad as it appears to be, you wonder how on earth the shows got commissioned, and I can't comment on that. Have we got any more questions? So thank you for watching, and thank you for all the remarks in the comments. There are more videos to come in the Love It or Hate It series. There are also some more forgotten sitcom videos. They will probably be early 2026. I've also written a series about sitcom pilots that have never been broadcast. There is another Summer Wine Decanted trivia video to come, and another 9-part series documenting an almost forgotten 1980s series, but they both need location shoots, which I can't manage financially at the moment. If you're watching this live, well, say live, for the first time when it goes out on its premiere, there's no video on Sunday the 30th of November. The next video will be Monday the 1st of December, and I hope you enjoy December's videos. Thank you very much for all your questions. If you'd like to support the work that goes into making my videos, you can contribute via the Super Thanks or at ko-fi.com Upstaged by a Dog. There is a link in the description. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching.